everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. All right, so we're back. Had some issues there. Weird stuff. We actually had like some power dipping. Very, very strange stuff. In the middle of that segment, like my lights kind of started to go a little like haywire, and then everything disconnected. And I was like, oh, okay. That's some weird stuff going on. But we're here. We're back for as long as it, as long as it lets me do it. All right, so we got a couple more stories here, and then blissfully we'll end the show for the weekend. But let's go into how the military, how Republicans are defending neo-Nazis. Fun. Yeah. Members of the Republican Party just voted to protect neo-Nazis. According to Vice, every single House Republican, 208, voted against an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act in order that would order the government to investigate white supremacist and neo-Nazi activity in the military, as well as federal law enforcement. Now, the bill ended up passing the House on a party line vote because, again, Democrats control the House and I guess technically control the Senate, although, with Joe Manchin, we'll get to him in another segment here. But let me give you the details on it. Now, the amendment would mandate the chiefs of the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense to produce a report assessing the extent of white supremacist or neo-Nazi activity in their ranks and how they plan to address it. So, look, again, this is another one of their, studies and commissions. And, we're going to give you a report in 6 months. And then, we're going to see, we already know we have neo-Nazis in the military. We already know we have white supremacists in the military. I'll get to those reports. Now, let's be honest here. So this, yes, there's an assumption that it's not going to get through the Senate because, again, you would have to break a filibuster, I would assume. That said, it is coupled with military spending. And so, it's the NDAA, it's military spending that's almost always guaranteed to pass. In fact, it's one of the only things that ever passes is more money for the military. But there's still a chance that Democrats will roll over and tweak the language as to not offend Republicans or even strip this out because, Democrats love to surrender. That said, why are Republicans worried so much about this? Again, this is related to white nationalism, white supremacy, neo-Nazis. Again, are you saying you like neo-Nazis? Well, here's GOP Representative Andy Biggs, who is an insurrectionist, by the way, from Arizona. He said that this amendment was, quote unquote, Orwellian in nature, and said it denigrates law enforcement and military personnel. This amendment attempts to create a problem where none exists. No, well, hold on here. Creating a problem where none exists, for one, Republicans love to do that. In fact, what's with all the trans bathroom bills and all the trans, all the anti-trans bills kicking them out of sports? That is a solution in search of a problem, sir. But on this, there is an actual issue. According to a Pentagon report last year, white supremacists had been building inroads into the military and using it as an effort to recruit highly prized active duty personnel. Nearly 1 in 5 defendants, by the way, in the Capitol riots was either current or former military. Again, in the Capitol riots, you had Trump supporters, you had Proud Boys, you had white nationalists and white supremacists. All these groups. And worse, roughly 1/3 of active duty troops said that they had personally witnessed examples of white nationalism or ideologically driven racism within the ranks of the military in recent months, according to a 2019 survey conducted by the Military Times and the Syracuse University Institute for Veterans and Military Families. A third. Troops have said that they had seen swastikas being drawn on service members' cars, tattoos affiliated with white supremacist groups, stickers supporting the KKK, and Nazi-style salutes between individuals. What's interesting is that here you have had one of the greatest anti-Nazi, anti-fascist forces in the U.S. military. Again, that's why we fought World War II, literally Antifa, right? That has been infiltrated by Nazis. Now, according to the Anti-Defamation League, the military is not doing enough to fight this. Mark Pitkovich, senior research fellow with the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, called the military's efforts largely haphazard. Quote, "It's not like the military is just tolerating white supremacists," Pitkovich told NPR, but he said efforts to address the problem need to be more systematic. Not only does there need to be training, Pitkovich said, but there also needs to be clear expectations coming down from on high about what you should do when you encounter extremists in your unit, at your base, or whatever the circumstances are. And that here are the procedures that need to be followed. Now, the reason, of course, that we're not addressing the problem the way that we should is because of Republicans, but also I'm going to blame weak Democrats as well. Remember, Democratic administrations had had chances to cut down on right-wing, extremism. For example, in 2009, the Obama administration was presented with a report showing how right-wing domestic terrorism was rising. Now, what did he do about it? Well, now first, the administration was going to look into it. However, since Republicans complained about it and said, "Oh, how dare you? How dare you? You're going to go after Republicans?" No, we're going after white nationalists. Wait a minute. Are you admitting that you are the white nationalists, the Republicans? That's the only reason that they would be mad about this. It's because they know. Now, again, Republicans complained back then. Obama, in all of his weakness, decided to disband the unit that was watching, that was monitoring right-wing terrorism, white right-wing extremism, and so it grew unchecked. Far-right extremism is now the number one domestic terrorist threat in America, and it has been for some time. They've killed more people than Islamic terrorists. And guess what? They're joining the military in order to get trained and to try to recruit others. But the right wing in Congress, you just saw 208 of them looks at this and says, "I don't care." Neo-Nazis, no, they're on our side. So why? They're not here to hurt me. Again, this is what Donald Trump had said for the January 6 rioters that showed up with weapons, guns. He said, let them keep their weapons. Don't worry. They're not here to hurt me. No. They're going to go after my political opponents. And so, of course, I'm going to walk with them. Look, this is why Republicans defend them. They're the people that put these Republican politicians in office in the first place. So now here's what I'm going to do. What so many right-wingers do when, for example, there's a Muslim that performs a terror attack or a black person that is involved in a riot, right? Right-wingers. Are you going to denounce this? Are you going to denounce neo-Nazis and right-wing terrorism? Are you going to? Or are you supportive of it? Are you going to denounce it? Here your congressmen are letting neo-Nazis join and stay in the military to get trained to then later on attack America, like they did on January 6th. Is that what you support? Are you in favor of this? And if you do, well then just be honest about it and just say it already. Just say it. Just say it. Yes, we are the fascists and we're on their side. All right. Well, as long as you're clear about it. The right says it was all Antifa. Of course they'll say that. Of course they'll say that. All right, one last story here. Senator Joe Manchin has once again tanked a bill that might have addressed climate change. Now, the West Virginia Democrat informed Democratic leadership on Thursday that he would not support any new climate spending or tax increases targeting the wealthy and large corporations to pay for what was considered to be mild climate measures. I know Washington will call this historic if there's anything like this passed, but it was some renewable energy investments, things like tax credits for, electric cars and renewable energy, all that stuff. Now, again, it's not really coming close to actually doing what we need to do to fight climate change. But even that, too much for Joe Manchin. So now what's interesting about this is I read the story and the whole mainstream media is pretty shocked. The Washington Post, for example, called it a, quote, stunning setback. And CNN said the change in tone of the negotiations was, quote unquote, abrupt. Really? Is it really shocking? Is it, oh my God. See, Joe Manchin said he was in favor of this until he said that he wasn't. Yeah, that's what he does. No, Joe Manchin doesn't ever want to rein in carbon emissions. He doesn't want to do anything about climate change. Why? Because he'll lose money. He's a coal baron. And just like, Build Back Better, when, they said, well, these negotiations are going wonderful with Joe Manchin. No, Manchin lied, as usual. According to sources, Manchin had supported these provisions throughout the negotiations with the majority leader, both at the staff and member level. So he says. No, how many times does Lucy have to pull out the football before anybody in Washington, any of these Washington reporters, gets it? Joe Manchin doesn't want to do anything on the climate. He's a Republican. I know, he's a Republican in Dem face. But look what he got Democrats to do. According to the Washington Post, Democrats had already agreed to surrender their most prized spending proposals, from offering paid family and medical leave to providing childcare, free pre-K, and tax benefits to low-income Americans. Stuff that, might have actually helped average people. So, of course, we can't do that. We can't, no, can't help the average American. We can't do it. Not if it costs our beloved wealthy donors and corporations an extra nickel. By the way, these corporations are flush with cash. So now, again, this goes to Washington thinking that, well, we have inflation is really high, and it's because of all these different things. No, the inflation is largely due to corporate greed. And again, you can point to sky-high corporate profits for these corporations as the cause. If you're having all of this, all these massive profits at a time where, yes, you do have increases in the price of materials, sure, and you have supply chain issues, sure, that's going to raise your price. But if you're maintaining and increasing your profits, that means you're raising the price far above what you need to offset those costs. So the fact that these corporations are making massive profits and doing more stock buybacks, and that just shows you what the real problem is. And it's not that Americans got a check, a $1,400 check years ago. No, it's corporate greed. But of course, Joe Manchin is on the side of corporate greed. And so he's going to protect these companies and say, we cannot possibly do anything to tax them or the rich, and then uses the excuse of inflation. That's what he's doing. Now, if you're Joe Biden, if you actually cared, okay, why are you not out there saying, look at what Joe Manchin is doing? He once again has torpedoed my plans to do something about climate change. Because again, young people, especially young people, but everybody is worried about the effects of climate change. Look at what Joe Manchin did. He could go out and say he sided with the Republicans. Why is he siding with Republicans? Why is he screwing you and your kids over? By not passing these incredibly popular policies, along with stuff to do something about climate change. Hey, West Virginia voters, you going to deal with that? Now, of course, Joe Manchin is not up for re-election for some time, unfortunately. And so I'm guessing, and they might be right, he might be right, that people just forget about it. Or at least his voters will forget about it. But Joe Manchin's not even out there speaking against his friend Joe Manchin. I mean, even in the article, Democrats, they're like, we got to be cautious about this because we've been burned so many times by Joe Manchin in these negotiations. So they're already admitting it. They know it. They know he's going to pull the football, and he did once again. Look, Joe Manchin is slapping Biden in the face over and over again. And he doesn't talk bad about Joe Manchin. No, he defends Joe Manchin. And what does he do? He slaps progressives in the face, blames progressives. That's what they're doing all the time, going strongly against progressives. And yet Manchin says, I don't want to raise taxes on corporations. I don't want to raise taxes on rich people because that might affect me. I might lose money. I don't want to do that. Look, Joe Manchin has a clear conflict of interest. He owns a coal company. He's a coal baron. He's invested heavily in fossil fuels. And yet Senate Democratic leadership, put him on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Anyone with a functional brain knows that he's not going to support anything that hurts his precious income, his bottom line. And that goes, by the way, for every member of Congress. And yet they're all allowed to trade individual stocks. Every DC reporter that keeps believing that Joe Manchin will actively vote against his own financial interests needs to have their ad examined. They're some of the most gullible people alive. You want to call yourself a reporter? A reporter. Give me a break. Oh, no. Democracy dies in darkness, everybody. No, democracy dies when you have the donors in charge. That's what you have. That's what happens. Now, here's an example of reporters just not getting it. They write, on Friday morning, Manchin said on West Virginia local radio that he could support climate spending and tax increases, but only if economic indicators improve in the next month. However, in another article in CNN, Manchin spokesperson Sam Runyon said that Manchin remains seriously concerned about inflation and believes paying down the national debt and raising taxes on high earners and corporations must be our first priority. Interesting. So, wait. So, again, he voted against raising taxes on corporations and wealthy earners and says we must focus on paying down the national debt. But maybe we'll support spending and tax increases at another time. No, it's never going to happen. Never going to happen. He has made clear, Runyon said, that we can protect energy independence and respond to climate change at the same time. We must maintain energy independence by advancing an all of the above energy policy to continue producing energy cleaner than anywhere else in the world. You know what all the above means? It means coal. It means oil and natural gas. That's what it means. So here he is out there tanking this because of its greener energy investments, while at the same time saying, oh, I believe in green energy, but I also believe, we need to do an all of the above, which is going to benefit me. It's just more money for him. And by the way, he is also aiming for $200 billion in deficit reduction. Now, the Post article says that it was not immediately clear how that could be achieved if tax hikes were off the table. Gee, this one's super easy. Maybe even the writers at the Washington Post can figure this one out. Joe Manchin is calling for austerity. That's it. He's going to cut social programs. That's it. That's what they're going to do. More money for fossil fuels, but less for you. That's Joe Manchin's priorities. Everything that he does goes to help corporations and himself and to harm you. Get a clue, Washington. It's easy. Just follow the money. All right. I'm going to read some super chats here. You've all been very, very kind. Even with all of my disastrous problems, the show's been just an absolute disaster today. All right. Let's go here. And, all right. Monty Darno says, thanks for the honesty. We love it. Check Twitter. Ginger Hickerson, thank you for the very kind $5. Jonathan Leiter says, Jews believe the mother's life comes first and a fetus isn't a life until could viably survive outside of her womb. And I thought we ruled the world. It's, again, this is it really is a 50 or has been a 50-year effort to get rich people to pay less in taxes. I mean, honestly, you would look at that and be like, wait, what does rich people paying less in taxes have to do with the pro-life movement? Well, understand that the pro-life movement was started by that. Again, Paul Ryrick was one of those people who started that moral majority. And again, it was really started by billionaires that wanted to pay less. Simple as that. And they concocted this whole thing. Oh, no, we actually care about lives and, abortion and all that stuff. And so we're going to trick voters for the next 50 years to vote for politicians that are incredibly pro-corporate, that are going to promise to do something about abortion while also giving all the money to the rich. That's the whole plan. And it worked beautifully. And so this is the whole part of the culture war is to distract people. And again, to get people who are single issue voters, they're going to lie to these people. Tell them that they're pro-life, that they're all about life. When in reality, they're all about taking your money and sending it to rich people. And that's what it is. This reminds us that you're one of us, Jeff, not some far removed anchor person that's basically a trained SEAL. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely not one of those fancy people. All right, let's see. And thank you, by the way, for that comment. Mr. Shadow says, toast to Jeff for being awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Very, very kind $20, by the way. Really appreciate that. Horror says, some days you just have to grin and bear it. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Peril 77 with a very kind $100. Wow. You remember from a while ago, I would ask for an exclusive Alex Jones soundboard and super chats. If you can see what I've contributed over the years, I think I deserve a couple of sound bites in a row. I'll have to look into getting more of those. I know I keep saying that. I have ADHD, so I forget a lot and get super distracted. And there's a lot of things that I actually feel like I need to do for the show that I have been putting off. Like, for example, an end screen, getting different music or more music in here, all that stuff, all that other production stuff. Let's just say it is a work in progress. Thank you for sticking with me on that. Really, really appreciate it. All right. Let's see. Is there anything here on, yes, it's just Vegas. Thank you for subbing for a month to tier 1. Appreciate that. That's on Twitch. All right. Manchin's corruption exposed last year doesn't get referenced enough. Absolutely, it doesn't. I think I did see one New York Times article that did reference how much money, or the fact that he had gotten all this money from oil and gas. And I'm like, holy crap, what is going on here? The New York Times actually reporting something true on a headline about corruption, about the Democrats. Amazing. Amazing. It's got to be a record. There were two big exposés on Manchin a year ago. That's right. We covered those here. And yet there are so many people that just, in the establishment media, as well as establishment Democrats, that don't quite get it. All right. Well, that said, everybody, please have a great weekend. I definitely am going to go chill out for a while and decompress after I get all my stuff edited, all that. Thank you all. Have a fantastic weekend. Thanks again for sticking with me through the tech issues today. Again, disaster. But I love you all for staying anyway. Thank you all. Have a great, great weekend. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you all Monday.
Amazing.
Obama.
Disappointed!
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water. They turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Still care.
I'm sick of all these witches and warlocks.
Peachtree dish.
God bless you.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.